Good morning. It's Friday, June 12th, 2020. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Reflections on Him, a daily medley of scripture and hymns. The Lord has given us another day to serve Him and some great reminders from scripture to help us do that more effectively. Having been an educator earlier in my career, I'm aware of different techniques that have been used in the field of education. And what I've seen over the study of past decades and methods in the past for education, comparing that to what is used in conventional wisdom today, a lot has changed. I have seen different methods used, and one that stands out to me is that I have heard stories where the thought is give the child a safe environment so that they can vent their frustration and then move on and work with the child after that point. I've heard of stories of young children, 6-year-olds, who have been taken to the principal's office. They have been left in that principal's office under observation from the other side of the window and the door. And that child in that safe environment ransacks the principal's office, throwing everything on the floor, just totally destroying and wreaking havoc in that office while the administration waits for the parents to come and control the child. And in a way, I think we're seeing some of that same methodology played out on the public scene. We're seeing that same technique of allowing grown adults to behave in much the same way as that 6-year-old in a principal's office. And while I watch that, I think this is an interesting and a flawed method of dealing with the problems that we see in our society. I feel like we're watching that play out, and we're watching it play out in a very horrific and troubling kind of way. But the thought is to give them a safe environment. They can make a mess, but if they vent their frustrations, maybe they might feel better in the end. While stepping in at the stage of this ordeal, while trying to remedy this problem at this juncture, would be complicated and from some perspectives politically risky. If the problems had been dealt with properly back when the child was young, or when that adult was a young child, this may have been averted. But I believe that from our scripture reading today, if you were to ask Jehoshaphat about this same thought and this same methodology, he would wholeheartedly agree. You see, Jehoshaphat was a good king. He walked in the ways of his father Asa. He loved the Lord. He had a heart prepared to seek after the Lord. He was a good king, but he gave space for sin to survive. In 2 Chronicles 20, we see that the summary of his life is that he walked in the way of Asa his father, and departed not from it, doing that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Howbeit, the high places were not taken away, for as yet the people had not prepared their hearts unto the God of their fathers. This had no small impact on Jehoshaphat. You see, because of his permission to allow these things to exist, and even to exist within his own life, he gave the opportunity for his son to create a union that was going to be nearly devastating for the family. You see, Jehoshaphat not only had space available in his kingdom, he had space in his heart. He was willing to strike up a unity, a peaceful accord with King Ahab, and to call him his brother. And basically, everything I have is at your disposal to King Ahab. And this buddy arrangement that he had with King Ahab led to the fact that most likely his son, Jehoshaphat's son Jehoram, met King Ahab's daughter, and through that arrangement, or whether it was true love, whatever the case may be, here you have a good king's son marrying what has been quintessentially the most wicked representation of evil, King Ahab and Jezebel's daughter. And the ramifications of this are just dastardly. As you watch how Jehoram will murder his brothers and others, he walks in complete contradiction to his father's principles. And as you continue to see the episode unveil, you witness one of the most breathtaking attempts of the enemy of God at extinguishing the line of David. And so therefore you nearly see the promises of God thwarted. all because Jehoshaphat made room for sin to survive. The accusation comes from one of the prophets in 2 Chronicles 19. Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him and said to King Jehoshaphat, "Shouldest thou help the ungodly and love them that hate the Lord? Therefore is wrath upon thee from before the Lord." Deep in Jehoshaphat's heart, he allowed these things to exist. If Jehoshaphat had not tolerated such wicked intrusion into his kingdom, but even into his home and his heart, things might have turned out differently. Yes, Jehoshaphat's son, had free will to make his own decisions. And could it have turned out that even with the best of decisions by Jehoshaphat, Jehoram could have still gone astray? It completely could be the case. But you and I are saddled with the responsibility as to, I need to make the most important decisions for my life, my heart, my home, because my decisions definitely impact my children and the next generation. If there wasn't any friendship with the king of Israel, it would have been much more difficult for Jehoram to make that union with the daughter of Ahab. In our church's reading plan, we're also in Psalm 119. In verses 97 and following, we see several distinct declarations, almost like stakes in the ground that say, I am not going to allow my path to wander from the way of truth. Psalm 119:97, "Oh, how I love thy law. It is my meditation all the day." 101, "I have refrained my feet from every evil way, that I might keep thy word." 104-5, "Through thy precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path." The admonition I see from this example is to never be satisfied with your proximity to God. Never be satisfied. You may say, well, I'm doing all right. I think I've got things under control. Well, there is always greater distances that we can cover as we draw closer to God every single day. I love this phrase. I've used it many times, and it's one that's fresh on my mind. Content, but never satisfied. Content, but never satisfied. You may say that's splitting hairs, and it certainly is. But for me, it speaks the volumes of the zealous diligence I must have in my life for a closer walk with God. I know the scriptural principle is to be content in whatsoever state I am, but yet I desire to zealously pursue a closer walk with God. And so that is the hymn of reflection this morning. "Oh, for a Closer Walk with God," written by William Cowper, who was one who befriended John Newton, who wrote Amazing Grace. But William Cowper is known for having a lot of internal struggles. The turmoil of his heart is the seedbed for some of the truths that we see spoken and written and recorded in this very hymn. And I hope that it will encourage you this morning. Oh, for a closer walk with God, a calm and heavenly frame, a light to shine upon the road that leads me to the Lamb. Where is the blessedness I knew when first I saw the Lord? Where is the soul-refreshing view of Jesus and His Word? What peaceful hours I once enjoyed, how sweet their memory still. But they have left an aching void the world can never fill. Return, O holy dove, return, sweet messenger of rest. I hate the sins that made thee mourn and drove thee from my breast. The dearest idol I have known, whate'er that idol be, help me tear it from thy throne and worship only thee. So shall my walk be close with God, calm and serene my frame, so pure light shall mark the road that leads me to the Lamb. I've watched the clips of vandals tearing down and defacing statues commemorating moments in our nation's history. As I read the comments under these images and videos on social media, I've noticed, and you will as well, that the blame is often laid at the feet of the education system. It would seem many believe that with better or a more thorough education, these young people would not be vandalizing these statues. Well, I don't believe it's a matter of education. I believe we are witnessing the inverted illustration of what should have taken place in Jehoshaphat's day, and what needs to take place in our hearts. You see, these vandals simply will not tolerate any quarter for memorials representing a contradiction to their worldview. They want to remove all of those markers that seem to be an affront against their initiative and agenda. They are bold enough to tear down those statues. They should be held accountable for their actions. However, take note of the drastic measures that they use and that they employ, and realize that we ought to be just as tenacious in the matters of our personal lives, and especially the idols of our heart. What idols of the heart are you allowing to remain? Do you need to, as the poet expresses, ask God to help you rend and tear those idols from the throne of your heart? Like Jehoshaphat, what we tolerate can often become the petri dish for evil to grow and strike back at some point in the future. My friend, crave a closer walk with God and give no quarter for the idols of the heart. And that's our reflection on Him for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you'll have a blessed weekend. And for those that are from our church family, I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. And those that are from elsewhere around the country, I encourage you to be faithful and be in your church on Sunday, and to really ask the Lord to show you any of those idols that need to be torn down in your heart so that you can make space for that closer walk with God. God bless.